Hey y'all, what's up? This is Chris of Blackstone Cherry, and you're watching the Helix Hour with Eric Broadbent.
Welcome to the Helix Hour, brought to you in part by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for the Helix Hour are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, let's talk some Helix. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Helix Hour. We are live. Happy Sunday to you all. We have a very special guest today. We've been excited about this one, working on this for probably a better part of a full calendar year. Guitarist Vernon Reid. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm
What's
doing
going on, Eric?
really good. The weather over here, I mean, we're just kind of across the border, pretty much almost straight across. The weather over here is a little nicer today. There's no snow on the ground. I'm
Right.
feeling pretty good. We got a great bunch of people in the chat. That's just, I don't think we could have a better start.
Hey, man, I think the polar vortex is leaving us alone this Sunday. It's a little rainy,
Yeah.
but it's not super cold, and I'm totally always happy when it's like that.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, that's good, but we're going to get warmed up pretty quickly here as well too. But before we do, and I'm going to actually read from some notes here because I want to just make a little bit of an emotional statement, and I don't want to mess it up. So we had this really good friend. His name was Will G.L. Ellison. He called himself G.L. Ellison, but he was more popular known as Humbucker Lover in the guitar community. He was kind of a glue to a lot of our channels doing this thing. So I'm just going to read a little note. So I'd like to mention that we had a great friend and respected member of the online guitar community that would have given anything to be here and watch this interview today. Mr. Will G.L. Ellison, a.k.a. Humbucker Lover. He was the world's biggest fan of you, Vernon, and of course, Living Colour. And Will sadly passed away late last year, and this show is totally in his memory and dedication today. So Will's watching from heaven with some good Wi-Fi today, and he loves you.
Absolutely. Rest in peace to Will, and condolences to his family and friends.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I know he'll appreciate that greatly, and so will his family. We've got a few super chats jumping in right off the hop, and I want to just at least thank those people for the beautiful donations. I appreciate that. My good friend Django Amadeus sends $20. Says thank you for your hard work producing these shows. My brother at line 6, Frank Rashad, thank you, sir. $25, the best entertainment on the web right here. And I think there was one from Aaron Short. So thank you so very much. He says, I love these shows. So useful and interesting, my friend. So folks over in the chat, thank you, Aaron, Frank, and Django. I appreciate that greatly. We'll be jumping back and forth to the chat quite a bit today so we can get some questions for Vernon as well, too. And I'll try to say hi to as many of you as possible. But Vernon, before we jump into all kinds of technology and stuff like that,
Right.
you've had a lot of signature guitars over the years, and a
Right.
lot of it, kind of like just like over on the Eddie show, we like to follow Eddie's, Frankie's, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but one I want to talk about right now is PRS. So you've got your signature, and you might actually have a couple beside you. You want to tell us what the
Yeah.
what that model's about?
Yeah. They're custom S2 Velas,
Okay.
and it's just I've known Paul for really a long time because he started his company. I started the band Living Colour in '84, and Paul started PRS in '85, or those thereabouts, or is it the other way around? It's '83. We started right around the same time, and we met when there's the one time that the NAMM show was in New York,
Okay.
and and we met, and it was funny because I was really into kind of whammy bar, twang bar thing, and he was doing stock tail pieces. But I always respected his work because one of the guitarists that influenced me a great deal, Carlo Santin, he switched from Yamaha guitars over to because he was an SG guy for a while, then he was a L6S guy, then he played a custom Yamaha, and he moved over to PRS, and then he kind of stayed with PRS.
That's right.
And that was so I always respected the aesthetics, the sound, and it really just took a whole lifetime of going through different, you know what I mean, with the ESP thing, the Hamer thing. I mean, these are companies that took care of me. They're great, and for a short time I was with Parker,
Yeah.
and but then there was a juncture where there was an opening, and we had a mutual friend, Jason McNamara, who's an Aussie guy he's living in Tokyo now. He's an amazing dude in his own right. But he was the bridge that kind of reconnected me to Paul, And then Paul was like, yeah, of course. And then we've just been kind of doing our thing ever since. And then I was looking at their line of guitars, and I noticed that I liked the shape of the Vela. It had a different aesthetic, a different look to it.
Right.
And then they had a pick guard, and I said, you know what? That pick guard is awfully blank. What about doing, like a kind of collage art piece on it? And and that's how eventually it led to the limited run of the VR Vela, VR S2 Vela.
It's a beautiful guitar. Do you prefer Floyd more so than like a tremolo as opposed to a fixed bridge? If you had your say all the time.
Well, you know what? I think all the different bridges have their place. I think I'm a Floyd guy, as far as that goes. But I'm okay with stock, where there is no tremolo, with stock tailpiece thing, and I'm even okay with other different kinds of bridges. I was a trans trim dude when
Nice.
When I was playing the Steinberger, because I had met Ned years ago, the genius guy. And it's funny, there's the Kaler thing is like people go, Kaler's great. Yeah, I hate Kaler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that it was tempting because I remember early on, I was like, well, I love the springiness. It's a really springy feel to it.
Yeah.
And then people was like, man, it'll never stay in tune. And check out the Floyd. I checked the Floyd out, and I was like, oh man, I dig this. And that was where I started out. But the stock tailpiece is fine. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll share a funny story with you. I've said this on a couple of my various other shows. It's an embarrassing story, but saying something about a Kaler tremolo to the wrong person. I had I endorse a brand of guitar picks called Dava. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them. They're kind of cool. I like them. They're not for everybody, but I do love them. And so Dave Story is the founder of the company called Dava Picks. And so I'm talking to him talking to him one time in a conversation, and we got talking. We went off on a tangent. We started talking about tremolos. And I said, yeah, I'm a Floyd guy through and through. I said, I just don't like that Kaler. I mean, honestly, I don't think they're good at all. And he goes, I'm really sorry to hear that because I am also the founder of Kaler Tremolos. and I was like, oh boy, where do I go from here, right? And then so he heard my argument, and then he kind of said, oh, okay, I see your point there a little bit, little bits here and there. But it was a very funny story. But, you talk about Floyds. I've always thought that as well, too. I love Floyds. Like my nickname on the internet is Floyd Rose and all these forums and stuff. Floyd Rose 5150, and I thought if you put married a PRS guitar with a Floyd, I thought it would be heaven. And the first introduction I ever saw to it was I used to have a Torero, and it was kind of in a way kind of a nod back to your ESP with the EMGs and the and the humbucker, floating Floyd. The only thing that scared me was there was no fret markers, and I sometimes need a road map on guitar. I don't know why that is.
I got you.
Yeah. But did you know, you'll have to ask Paul this next time you're speaking with them, that they built when they tried to wine and dine Eddie Van Halen, and they built 2 Van Halen prototypes with a Floyd. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's 2 of them, and somebody has one, and maybe ask Paul where the other one went. But it was kind of just like picture a PRS Beretta, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
Yep, and just wasn't for Eddie, I guess. Had the Floyd, that kind of stuff, but it wasn't what it is. But I mean, that'd be cool to find out where they went to.
I remember, I was tempted for Kaler because I think Adrian Ballou was early on. It was a Kaler dude at first.
I'm almost 100% sure he was.
Yeah, and and he got he made it work. So I was that was my attraction to Kaler, and then people just shouted me down like, no, damn, blah, rah, rah.
Well, there's a lot of guys and girls. I mean, look at Lita Ford. I think even today still, I think she's still using Kalers. Anything that's got a trem, I think it's a Kaler. I know Jennifer Batten, probably Steve Stevens back in the day. I mean, it was technology, and as we always talk about with you, you are on the cutting edge of technology. You're always embracing what's new, and if we don't do that, we kind of get stuck in a rut, don't we?
Well, it can happen. I mean, I think that it's funny in a weird sideways defense of Kaler. I think pretty much anything that's set up well and set up optimally, will work. As far as technology, it's all of it is technology.
Right.
If you stop and think of it, like what we do is that we get nostalgic about a particular thing or a particular moment in time, but all of it, I mean, that's why Leo named those guitars, the Broadcaster, then the Telecaster,
Mm-hmm.
and the Stratocaster. I mean, it's all tied to like aerospace,
Yeah.
and the space race, and that was the height of technology, And he wasn't being nostalgic; he was forward thinking. So I think that people kind of go, okay, I want to stop here, and that's fine. If you don't want to do it, no one's put it. I mean, sometimes it feels like there's pressure to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you follow your interest. If you're interested in this wonky stuff, or then go for it. If it doesn't interest you, then if you want to plug straight into the amp, then do that. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to be with it.
I agree. Very, very well said. Just want to address something in the chat again very quickly too. Django Amadeus O'Connell did another $20 super chat. It says Vernon equals living legend. Living Colour changed the course of music forever for the better. Thank you for sharing your vision and music.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very well respected, and I want to jump ahead something. It's totally out of order here in context, but I want to say something. Just hearing you speak about aerospace and things like that as well too. I've made a note about this, and I because we follow each other on social media on Twitter, I enjoy watching a lot of your interactions with people. And because I've been working on having you on one of our shows for a long time, I've been teasing people saying that he's coming up, and every time I mention your name, I say that you're one of those guys. I mean, outside looking in, you seem to know a lot about a lot, which is really cool. Some guys know a lot about cars, know nothing about anything else. You tend to be one of those guys that knows a lot about a lot of things, whether it be like arts and entertainment and things like that. And I'd just like to ask maybe, maybe you can share some tips for some people. Like, we all need time management in our lives.
Oh God,
you do. You're gigging.
Don't ask me about that.
I know. I am going to ask you about that because I think you might be a near expert on it. Where people are gigging like yourself. You're gigging all the time. You're going to be touring again overseas soon. You're active on social media. You're active. Kind of activist for a lot of things. Any tips you can share for people that they think they're too busy in their life and maybe they can slow themselves down but still enjoy it all?
Well, I would say try to get rest when you can. Like, I absorb a lot of things. I'm a member of Audible. I'm an audiobook person, and I know a podcast. That's why I actually used to have a podcast with W. Kamau Bell, and so I love the podcast form. It's a resurgence. It's a resurgence of independent media. There all of these amazing narrative podcasts. They're podcasts for everything under the sun.
Right.
And you can learn a lot when just by listening and taking these things on. Reading is still very important, but I take a lot of my information in via podcast, but via podcast and sources like Audible.
I like that.
And that helps. And then and it's funny, also setting time limits. Like, you can do a lot if you set a time limit, right? If you say, I'm going to do a particular thing and focus on it for a half hour or 10 minutes or what have you. Like I have a particular guitar exercise that I try to do for about 30 minutes. And I try to find this 30-minute block sometime in the day to do it.
Okay.
And that same thing can apply to anything. It's like, if you want to learn a particular dish, focus on it for 30 minutes. If you want, or 10 minutes.
Right. As long as you're consistent with it.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to find out something or make reference to things, you can spend 15 minutes. And I would just say that you have to be serial tasking as opposed to multitasking.
Okay.
So serial tasking means put your focus on the thing you're focusing on and nothing else for, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And really just kind of focus your attention, your mental chi on that. And then let it go and then move on to the next thing. So if you want to play Fortnite, like, you could play Fortnite for the problem is that we don't let it go, and that's where the day slips away. It's like it's okay to play Fortnite if you want to, but play Fortnite for an hour and let it go.
That's right.
Or for a half hour and let it go. And the problem is with addictive things is that because there's a battle for our attention and our mental space. Like it's real, and advertisers and marketers are trying to get you to go down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole deal. Like when people are making an offer, it's like accepting a gift from a troll or an elf.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be careful. You go under a bridge.
Yep.
And and a troll says, "I have original PAF pickups in this bag. Like, don't take the pickups because your immortal soul is at risk."
That's right. There's something that comes along with those pickups.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
I like that.
Yeah. So like people say free ain't free.
No.
And so like all of these things, like, if you want to learn something that's really, really hard, you can be frustrated all day. But if you say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 10 minutes knocking my head against this and then let it go. And it's weird. In the time that you're not doing it, your brain is doing stuff.
Agreed.
To move you forward with it. And that's the thing. It's like kind of like doing something without a break doesn't really advance you. It's like that's why they say if somebody's bodybuilding, the periods of rest is how you build the muscle.
Yeah.
Like you go through the strain of lifting, and then you have to stop for the muscle to build. So if you're trying to learn a piece of music, if you're trying to figure a thing out, like you have a piece of gear you can't figure out, it's like, okay, knock your head up against it for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then let it go. And your brain is actually working. But the thing of it is, you can't do that and be multitasking.
No.
Because then you're not really spending the 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to figure the thing out.
Right.
Actually, if you're doing a bunch of stuff, you're not at the same time, you're not actually focusing. So then you don't advance any further.
You might actually be doing more harm than good, actually.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I know we're going to talk about the Helix, but it's just like any of these gadgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any of these things, whether you're talking about a Kemper or whether you're talking about the Helix or whether you're talking about Axe Effects, and all these different things come into your life, and they all have crazy learning curves. They all have learning curves.
Right.
And they all have their own nomenclatures and things, things they refer to, both the hardware and the software.
Agreed.
So basically, you have to crack the code. And once you crack the code, then you start to function. Then you're not, you know what I mean? Like once you know the shortcuts, once you figure out certain things, how information is organized on the device, once you get it, then you got it. But in order to get it, you have to focus on it, let it go, focus on it, let it go. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, that's how that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly you're able to do it. You're able to flow around with it, and then you'll be much more efficient in how you approach whatever it is.
I love that. I'm really glad I asked you the question about time management as well, because that's kind of took us down this path, and I think it's a nice takeaway. I always try to find one takeaway from every episode, and I love that serial tasking. I just want to say something quickly over here, too. Chad Boston's jumping in saying, with the $10 super chat, saying, all music, tech, Floyd, Kaler, anything else are just tools with all having limits. The gear is there to help you and make music you feel is good. Nothing more to be happy and make music. That's exactly right. All these things are tools in our toolboxes, and everyone's got different wrenches and hammers, but they all do a different job. There's a question from a good friend, Quentin James here, and this is maybe take us, before we jump, we're going to do a couple more little steps before we jump into the deep pool of Helix, and I talk to you about some photography and things as well, too.
Right.
But Quentin says, what hobbies does Vernon have that does he do sometimes just to get away from music and clear your mind? So sure, maybe photography is one of them, but maybe some of your hobbies.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, okay, so when I think about photography is less a hobby than an expression of my aesthetic.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's and partly I say it's not a hobby because I've exhibited before and I've done certain things with it. But the point is that the way I'm seeing and the way I'm hearing is connected to the same aesthetic. They're aspects of a whole. And a hobby is something like there's a bit of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
that I've gone down a rabbit hole, and I have to, I'm going to confess something. If there's anyone in the chat room or out there that knows when I say Plants vs. Zombies.
Oh, I love that game. Yep.
It's a savage. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't you know what I mean? Those of us who are Plants vs. Zombies veterans, we know what that is.
Okay.
And so yeah, but again, I'm debating with my daughter whether to get a PS4, but the iOS thing and the iPad, that's when kind of gaming, that kind of gaming kind of came in to suck the rest of my time.
Yeah. So let me ask you a fair question. Are you allowing yourself 30 minutes on Plants vs. Zombies? Or is it like 3 hours?
Dude, I am so here's the thing. The thing that they did with Plants vs. Zombies that is a terrible time suck.
Yep.
Is the tournament.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
If you want to limit your time, don't do the tournaments. Because the tournaments, it's like it's all illusory, right? Everything is illusion, right?
Sure.
So this idea that you're in the platinum league or whatever league you're in, you know what I mean? It's a lure, right?
Yep.
So fully knowing that, I'm top 10 in my league.
There you go. That's pretty good.
The current challenge,
I could just, you don't have to share what your gamer tag is or anything like that, but I could just imagine someone's playing and all of a sudden, hey, I just got beat by Vernon Reid. You know what I mean? That'd be pretty cool. Thrill.
Oh man. I played Nova, which is like broke ass Halo.
Okay. I don't know that one.
But but anyway, I read a lot. Like I said, I talk about Audible and I'm currently reading the Stephen King had put out this book, Mr. Mercedes.
Okay, I don't know that one, but my better half would know that one for sure.
Oh yeah. So it's about this detective Bill Hodges,
Okay.
And it's pretty good. He's and his son Joe Hill, amazing. Really. I mean, it's so funny because I'm sure there are people that are like, Stephen is terrible, blah blah blah, this that and thing. But he knows how to write, even if it's pot boiler stuff.
Okay.
He knows how to write in such a way that draws you in, that draws people in,
pulls you in.
Like I'm sci-fi, and I'm also a big H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay.
Fan. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's anybody that knows if there's anybody out there that knows what a shoggoth is, then we're in the conversation.
Talking the same lingo for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I'm chilling in early yet.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know my better half, Nocturnal Butterfly. She that's her name in the chat. She's Sandra Lee. She's a big Stephen King fan for sure, and I just know a little bit because through her. But that's fantastic. Going to jump. We're going to say hi to a bunch of people here in a second. But there's two more photography questions. One is from my good friend here. He runs a nice guitar channel as well too. Brian Cote here in Canada. And he's a really good photographer. He says, ask Vernon if he could maybe share any of his favorite photography techniques. Is there anything that...
boy. Well, I like the tilt shift.
Oh, cool. Right on. Yep.
Yeah, the tilt shift, where you focus, where you change the focal plane. So you pick an item. And this is actually a really good filter in Instagram. Mm-hmm. Because I've been doing a bunch of stuff with Instagram.
Sure.
And I like how tilt shift can turn everything else into a kind of dreamy landscape.
Toys.
And you focus on one aspect in the frame. So that whole idea of shallow depth of field, when I'm actually working with actual real cameras, I'm a Canon guy,
mm-hmm.
So I have a 1.8 portrait lens, and it's a really good lens for that. I mean, really to optically do that. But as a filter, I like that. And I like the fact that in Instagram, you have the choice of having a circle to focus, mm-hmm. or a kind of a linear plane. So you can kind of pick, you can kind of focus on a diagonal.
Okay.
You could focus, along the horizon. You could pick out somebody's eyes and focus and have the eyes be sharp and all the rest of the face go soft. And that's really good for portraiture, to emphasize certain things. That's a technique that I like a great deal. Also, saturation and desaturation can be really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, any of the filters or anything, I mean, they work according to the subject.
Right.
And to what, something that just kind of having a methodology, like, I do this series of things. Not so much, but, some of my photographs, I'll have everything in the photograph sharp, but in certain other photographs, it works to say, you know what, I want this detail to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
I want this thing. And with you can also do that combining techniques.
Exactly.
Like where you go with contrast, where you go, like, in a weird way, what you could do with highlights versus shadows,
yes,
versus contrast, versus brightness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All of those, what you do with vignetting,
yes.
Like vignetting is a funny thing because vignetting would be like a thing to avoid in actual photography.
That's
it's
right.
Like, oh my God, my lighting's not even. But vignetting can also help to emphasize,
bring the eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Bring the eyes, focus the eyes in a particular place, and combining these different things can be very, very effective.
I love the share about tilt shift. I really enjoy that too. I'm a Nikon shooter, but I think Brian is probably a Canon shooter like you as well too. And I've got some really good glass as well too. I'm using a lot of the Sigma art. I've got a 18 to 35 1.4, 50 millimeter art, and then a 70 to 200, and I love those. And also in Lightroom, there's some really good tools as well too for the tilt shift. I shot one off a balcony of a building one time, a big full parking lot, and like a motorhome, looks like a little toy Hot Wheels car. If you do the right tilt shift, very, very cool.
Well, it's funny when you're flying. It's a weird thing to consider the fact when you're flying, you're on the ground, you're on the highway going to the airport, then you get in a plane, and then you're above the same highway
mm-hmm.
that you took to get to the airport, and then you consider all these cars are filled with people that are going their places, and it's a funny perspective. And the person on the ground looks up and sees the plane and sees like a toy plane
mm-hmm.
in the air. So there are all these interesting perspectives, and photography is a great tool to examine perspective.
I love that statement, and it's almost like you were in a natural tilt shift environment. If you kind of compare,
100%.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say one other thing. Sigma Glass is that company has made like certain kind of glass are really affordable. If you want to do a bunch of things, and it's like, I think it's great. That company's done wonderful stuff because they make for all the different mounts in the industry,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's a really cool thing.
And this will be the last photography question, and we're gonna dive headfirst into the Helix deep end. Are you familiar with Scott Kelby? Do you know him?
Scott Kelby?
Yeah, look him up. He's he's a Photoshop guru, but he's also a world respected. He's got several award-winning books on Photoshop and Lightroom especially. But he's he used to be a Nikon photographer, sponsored by Nikon, switched over to Canon, and he does like the NFL. He's hired by the NFL. He's he's just absolutely amazing. But he's a great musician too. He's a keyboardist by trade. He switched over to guitar. A big Eddie Van Halen fan. I imagine he's probably a big fan of you too. Check him out. He enjoyed some of my Van Halen photography I did for Live Nation, which was cool. So yeah, he's an influence to me here on the channel as well too. So let's go over and say hi to a whole whack of people, and when we come back, we're going to jump over and find out how you discovered Helix. And here again, we've mentioned this word a few times today about a tool in the toolbox, whether it's a Helix or whatever the case may be. They're tools. I want to see how you found them and how you use them and what kind of voices it brings to you. So over in the chat, we say hi to a bunch of people. Kurt Paris here, Hadley Scott. Raspberry PF is here. Single Coil Lover is here. Todd Graff is here. Aaron Short Music is Django Amadeus O'Connell. Brian Cote. Quentin James. Lefty Mike is here. Carlo Santin, another great photographer here in Canada and a good friend. Frank Rashad, as you know him from Line 6. We love you, Frank. Thank you so very, very much. My beautiful Nocturnal Butterfly. Charles Ireson is here. Let me see. Chad Boston. I think I mentioned Chad, but I'll say him again. Chad Boston. And I'll try not to miss anybody. Randy Guitardit is here. Let me see here. Terry's GG&G, one of our great moderators, is here, keeping things running smooth and sharp in the chat. Tim Murphy is here. Hadley Scott McIntyre. Bam Ozzy is here. Let me see. Make sure I don't miss anybody. I'm trying my best here. Django again. Frank Rashad. Watching a Cult of Personality video when I was a kid absolutely blew me away. The guitar work stands up today as some of the best ever. This man is amazing. Frank loves you to death. It was so funny. Frank and I both met you at the Marriott there. and Frank gave me his phone to shoot a picture with you and him, and then he took one, and I it was an honor to meet you. But I look back and my hair's like all out like this. And it's not like I can call you and say, "Hey, Vern, can we do another one?" So thank you for being so.
We'll do it again soon.
I'm sure we will. So thank you. You were very, very cool. Scott Connor is here. Let me see here. Shekias is here. Nice to have you. All you guys and girls joining in the chat are just phenomenal. Janice Lala is here. Let me see. Brian Cote. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Continued. Tim Murphy. I think I mentioned that. I'm almost at the bottom. Brown Human. Let me see here. And Quentin says hi to Tim Murphy. He's one of the cool kids and a huge Vernon fan. That's nice to know. And I think I saw him sharing that. Quentin was sharing that you were going to be on the show today, and Tim was had some prior commitments, so it's nice to see that he jumped in, was able to catch you, because I know he's a big fan. Jeremy Carter says, Vernon, what's up? I hope you're doing good and a great player. And Eric, buddy, thank you for the help the other day with a stomp patch. Very nice and helpful. So nice to have you here, Jeremy. Thank you for the kind words. Almost down to the bottom, I think, possibly. Warren Hughes is here, a fantastic shredder. He met you at 2017 NAMM. He's a nice dude and great player. Full circle, I saw Living Colour at Butler University in Indy back in 89 or 90. Third row, amazing show. Evan Ward, man, you got some love here today for sure. Let me see. Janice Lala, Bobby Clipper. I'm almost down to the bottom. Let me see here. David Ennis. And let me see here. Is here. Quentin James. I got you, Quentin. Let me see here. Joe is here. Great episode. Thank you so much, Joe. All right. Rick Hyatt is here. Thank you, Rick. Let me see here. I almost got you guys. Bam Ozzy, I mentioned you. Marcel Blade. Good evening, guys and girls. And DJ Asker is here. Thank you for jumping in, buddy. I appreciate that. And we're getting almost there. Gary Holt, my good friend Gary Holt. Gary Holt was the fellow that actually made all that Kramer stuff happen. That you were watching some of my Kramer interviews. He's a best friend of Gary Kramer, and he spearheaded all this stuff. Guitar Hack is here as well too. He runs a fantastic YouTube channel. He's doing phenomenal things over there. And Coffee Lover is here too. Nice to see you, my friend. And PRS Rocker is here. And I'm going to Unchained 01 is here. I'm just going to highlight there so we can jump over now and talk. And we're going to jump into the deep waters of Helix. So let's talk about that. So how did you, I know you've always been the fan of technology. You've been working with Line 6 probably over the years from many different things, probably pods and things. How did you meet them? And how has Helix brought a new voice to you as a guitarist?
Well, it started with, I've been a Helix user, the DL4, the M9, which was the kind of the multi-effects that had all the different modelers. I actually have the rack mount effects. Mm-hmm. So I've been a Line 6 fan for a long time, and at one point, I had a Pod XT Live. Okay. And the Pod XT Live had a great kind of programmer, that Gearbox, and I really dug it. I mean, the XT Live had great sounds. It was limited in the way you could use expression control. Okay. You know what I mean? Whereas say the DL4, you could turn any knob you wanted, any part of the effect could be, because I like using expression pedals. Yeah. And so, so that I mainly have been using for a long time. I'm a VG99 user, they're rolling guitar modeling. It's like really like one of the earliest of the guitar modeling things, devices. And I got really quick on it. Had a great programming environment, and it was also, you were able to affect other MIDI devices and what have you. So, but you had to have, in order to fully utilize the VG99, you had to have a hex pickup. And I have a lot of my guitars have hex pickups on them, because I used Roland gear for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then basically I found out, and this was early in my relationship with Matt Ferguson, and I met him at NAMM because I would try to go over to Line 6. That was before they were before Yamaha,
right? A separate entity, yeah.
And it was Matt that said, "Man, well, we got something coming up that's really cool." That I said, "Cool," and he alluded to, "Yeah, man, it's going to be blah 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 blah." And this was early on, and I was like, of course, salivating. I got to check this thing out. And I had I have an Axe FX Ultra, and I had a thing with that for a minute, and so I got my hands on the Helix. He sent me one, and at first I was trying to figure out how to work with it. The whole thing of blocks, and one thing that was very cool is that there's a great editor.
Yeah,
there's a really good editor, and almost from the beginning, there are people that showed up on YouTube that really, and in fact, I'll tell you, one of the best resources is Line 6's own shortcut. There's a video about shortcuts for Helix.
Yep.
That still is one of the best videos about the Helix.
Yeah, and it's old.
It's really old,
yep.
But it's really no nonsense. It really just says what you do, and like nobody. I'm not going to complain about any other. I will give a compliment to. I live in Staten Island, and I want to compliment Mr. Richie Castellano.
Oh, he's great.
And guitarist of Blue Oyster Cult, and also a Yes fan, as am I. And
a Rush fan.
Richie has great videos.
He does.
Great Helix videos that are very clear and super explanatory. And so the whole thing, as I said before, I had to wrap my mind around this, the exact way it's organized, the fact that it has touch knobs, and it actually has a great thing because they found a way to use capacitance on the actual foot switches.
It's beautiful. Even if you want to just flip things around, like taking your thumb and your finger.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You can flip. You can also have one foot switch turn on 2 effects or more.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a whole kind of workaround. Once you wrap your mind around how the Helix is organized, it opens up this pathway to being clever or thinking, oh, if I could do this, I could set it up this way, I could set it up that way. And it really is a kind of open platform within itself. Like there are a bazillion ways to use the Helix. I mean, I like people talk about the 4 cable method, the 7 cable method for incorporating your amp into the setup. I actually am using third-party pedals like the H9 and what have you, or stuff from Chase Bliss, or so I use my FX loops for effects.
Nice.
I mean, that's how I do it, and I generally run into the returns. I just run it into I'll have my Boogie recto, dual rectos, and I've done it both ways. I've run it into the inputs and used the controls as S3E5, or I've bypassed it entirely and just use the effects returns and just use the raw tube power, and then have the preamping from the Helix itself.
Well, it's a fantastic way that you're using it for sure. And I think what scares some people off, some people that get into Helix and they want to still use some of their pedals with it, and all of us are used to hearing the term like in your effects loop, right? So you probably wouldn't run a distortion pedal in your amplifier's effects loop, or certain other pedals or certain pedals, a wah pedal, you're not going to run in your effects loop.
Right.
But if you think of Helix, if you can, because there's loops on the back, right, effects loops, so you could essentially put a wah pedal in there, a distortion pedal in there, and all you're doing is you're using it as a switcher, not as a. People need to kind of break down that term of loop. It's now a switcher. All you're doing is saying, now I've got a block. I can take that, my real crybaby wah, that's my real one that's in the loop. I can place it in my chain via an effects block. And when I turn it on, all I'm doing is saying, turn on that switch or that path. And
exactly.
Yeah. So it's so versatile.
It's very versatile because you can run things in series. You can run things in parallel as well, and also you can use it. And one of the things a current project, Helix project, is I want to figure out how to use the Helix as a virtual FC300, because the VG99 used to come with its own foot switch called the FC300 that controlled all of its functions. So I want to figure out how I could turn the Helix into a virtual FC300 to control all the functions of the VG99 as a separate tone source. Because it really works well with things like the Kemper. And one of the things I like about what Line 6 has done is that it's opened the conversation to say, yeah, you can use this with another modeling system as a control. It's a brilliant controller.
Of course.
You can use it to control Ableton Live.
Yep.
I mean, you can have each of the style switches can be momentary or latch. You know what I mean? And also, the other thing that's cool is using it in stop mode.
Oh yeah.
So if you use it in stop mode in a particular way, you can have like effects that are in your chain that are bypassed in your normal mode, in your preset mode. Okay. And then go to the stop mode and then access the other effects that are in your blocks, but aren't necessarily accessible in the preset mode.
Yeah, now you're in a pedal board mode at that point. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's something, and I'm learning. And the other thing too is my relationship to my Helix really changed as the updates came in. Like it was kind of great in not in quotations, but it was kind of great. But then it got to version 2.0, and then it was like, wait a minute. Then when it got to version 2.5, and they incorporated all of their legacy effects, that just blew it wide open for me.
I'm stuck in the reverbs and the legacy reverbs. I like the old plates, and I'm using some of the old synths. It's amazing.
It really is. A lot of the old effects, a lot of the old fuzz boxes. You know what I mean? A lot of the old filters, and particularly all the synth modelers.
It's very, very cool. That's a rabbit hole you can go down and spend weeks.
Oh yeah. With Plants vs Zombies by myself.
That's right. Well, I'm sure you probably followed what's coming in 2.8. You talk about all these updates you get excited about. Have you heard the 2.8 update?
I know you are about to blow my mind right about now.
Yeah, I won't go into the whole thing, but I'll tell you a couple things. I know one, I mean, as simple as this sounds, I think you and I are going to be on the same path with this because we're geeks when it comes to this stuff. You can use your Helix as a keyboard controller. I mean, they were demonstrating it. Eric Klein was doing a demonstration. He was playing one of Paul Hindmarsh's YouTube videos on the screen. So obviously they had a beta version of 2.8 firmware on the Helix. And he's rewinding the video. He's controlling the YouTube volume on the video. He's playing the video in half speed, reversing it, all by stepping on buttons on Helix. I mean, that to me is just, they give us, it's like Christmas again and again and again. And then, of course, they've got like a rev generator amplifier in there and all kinds, just so many really, really cool things.
When is this being released?
Spring.
Exactly.
So, I know. So I'm going to say probably the very last day of spring, and I don't want to commit to that because I know they say spring just to give themselves, a bit of a blanket of, comfort. But it's coming and it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, so you look for that. But I'm really glad you mentioned something about expression pedals because this is funny as all heck. I saw a photo, and you said you like them, and I know that's for a fact because I saw a photo of your stuff on stage one time, and you have 8 expression pedals.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's crazy because, as I use the SY300, I'm using these different things. And one thing I've figured out is that if I'm running a Zoom or a GT1 into like my combo, and I have to go across the stage to get to the volume, it's useless to me, right? So what I did was I organized my pedal situation so that the volumes are actually in one area.
Gotcha.
Right, so that when I want a synthesizer texture, is right there under my foot, as opposed to walking across the stage.
Yes.
To get, you know what I mean?
Yes, makes sense.
Or if I have, if I'm running something to my iPad and I want that volume available, I want it close at hand or close at foot.
Right.
For it to be usable and effective, and that's and then there's obviously there's also like I use H9, so expression control for the H9s and devices like that, or for the external effects, like for Chase Bliss or whatever I'm running.
Gotcha. Well, that's again too. I think that's very smart thinking because as a musician and a performer and an entertainer, you don't want to be having to do any more pedal board dancing than you have to. When you're in that creative moment, you've got your pedals right there. All you know is down, and we got it, and you know which ones they are. I've seen with colored tape and stuff like that, so you know which ones they are.
Oh yeah.
And your text
God knows. You don't want to step on the wrong thing at the wrong time.
I know. It could be
because then I'll get that whirling stare from Corey Glover.
And yet those are not comfortable, and any band members looking at you like, "What'd you do, Vern?" You know what I mean?
Frankly, I live for it.
There you go. There's a nice comment. I think I'm going to pronounce this as closely as I can to correct. Stefan Zorzit. Hi, my name is Stefan from south of France. I'm a guitar player. You're a great inspiration to me. Wish to see you one day at a gig. Keep going, Vernon, and keep the good music. So very nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little smaller footprint. Have you tried this little guy yet?
Oh yeah.
How do you like it?
Yeah. I have one of the HX Stomp,
mm-hmm.
and it's a wily little critter.
Yep,
It's a wily little critter. If you get again, once you wrap your mind around the various modes, like it has its own preset and stomp mode. And once you because you can organize it a couple of different ways. You can organize it just as presets.
Mm-hmm.
You could organize it in banks, but also in stomp mode, and so on and so forth. So once you wrap your mind around how, because it's the same. I mean, it's the same sounds. I mean, it's the same. That's the thing. Like the HX effects,
mm-hmm.
the Helix, the HX effects, and the HX Stomp. I mean, they're brilliant iterations of a central idea, and I think that's a really cool thing, because also it makes the Helix experience affordable for someone that, man, this sounds really great, but I'm not gonna, I don't have it to, put down $1,000+ for a thing, but and so it's great because you have the actual pedal board, you have the smaller, medium size, and then you have the Stomp. It's great.
That's right. Well, and another affordable option as well too is HX Native, and I haven't done as much with Native as I should have done. Because I mean, I've got several Helixes here in the Stomp and things like that too. So I'm not recording as much as I would like to be. Just not enough time. I will get back to it, but I use HX Native as well too, or Helix Native, I should say. And it just reminded me the other day, I had someone comment on one of my YouTube videos, and I did a live demo on Native a while back. And he was saying something like, how are you getting this great sound? And he was really, really enjoying it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that demo. So I want to go back. And it was a good one. I watched a little bit back. I was like, hey, this is great. So I'm going to do some more on that as well, too, because it's a great product and a good way to get in without, a huge investment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And I think you can create presets on Native and then port them to the Helix, right?
You can either way. If you go from Helix back to Native, you just can't use anything that would have a loop, like an effects loop block or anything like that. But yeah, I've taken some things and I brought them over, exported them, and they work that way. You just can't do the loop blocks.
One thing you can do that's great with Native is you can do reamping easily.
Oh,
if you're Ableton Live or Pro Tools or what have you, or Logic or whatever you're doing, you can do reamping. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, which means that you can say, okay, you have one sound, play a solo, and say you're comfortable with a particular sound, but then you want a different sound that maybe for a production that's like maybe not your thing,
mm-hmm.
but you can kind of experiment, or you can try different presets on that same passage until you find something that works for whatever it is you're doing.
Agreed. For people that may not get the technology, if they're kind of new to the technology, it's almost like maybe taking a cake, got a nice, vanilla cake, and you go to put some icing, and the icing doesn't stick. You can take that icing right back off, and there's no taste of it left. You can put another icing on there, and it's non-destructive. I guess that's maybe a bad analogy, but it's a non-destructive thing, and you can you're bringing your clean signal.
Non-destructive icing.
There you go. Yeah, so something along that lines. How about when it comes to speakers like FR systems? Have you experimented with the power cabs or anything like that? Or are you still the head and cab guy?
I'm still running Boogie Recto cabs.
Okay.
But I'm like as I said, and it's something I should probably investigate further. But I've been still running like dual or triple rectos, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, certainly nothing wrong with that for sure. And it took me a while too to go down that.
Right.
We keep saying rabbit hole, and as you can probably see behind me, like I've got 412 EVHs and stuff like that too. And I sadly just don't turn them on anymore.
I hear you.
But I do like to have some speakers moving, and in a stereo environment here, like it's just absolutely beautiful. For a while, what I was doing, getting the quote, Van Halen best of both worlds, kind of new technology and old technology. I was running left and right helix through the power cabs, and then a dry signal coming right out of like a direct to the 5150, and I had dry up the center, and that was pretty cool. Now I've taken out the dry, and I'm strictly all with digital, but it's so many possibilities. It's your imagination is the only limitation.
That really is true.
Mm-hmm.
That really is true, and that's the thing. I guess about these tools is, you're going to hear a lot of argument, and people swear by their methodology, and as like every other thing that human beings do, we've turned it into tribal blood sport,
mm-hmm.
in the chat rooms and what have you. And really, I just think it's an open platform.
Yeah.
And I prefer to find people that are informational,
mm-hmm.
like informational guides without people saying what it is or what it's not. I don't care about that.
Right.
And the thing that's kind of cool about it is that you don't have to use every feature.
No,
like you shouldn't feel bad, right? Because sometimes it's a process. Like working with these things are a process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in process with the Helix. I'm still, and I'm going to be in process, because just as soon as you wrap your mind around 2.5, here comes 2.7, and then here comes 2.8.
That's
and
right.
then there's going to be a 3.0 and a 3.5 and all the rest of it.
Yeah. We get caught up for a little bit. It's like a treadmill. You're getting, okay, we got it. Also, we're going back around again.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just like I like using Ableton.
Okay, and see, I don't know it. I have it. I don't know it. I can't work it to save my life, but that's cool.
So I use Ableton Live from the first iteration, from the way back. And the thing that I love about Ableton is that it's got all these crazy features, and now there's Max for Live, and it's super sophisticated. But the thing that's interesting to me is that if you wanted to use Ableton exactly the way it started in 1.0, you can do that, and there's no penalties for it. You just want to put a clip in
mm-hmm.
and trigger a clip, it'll do that. You don't have to have any of the extravagant effects or any extravagant routing. You don't have to do that. And it's the same thing. Helix is very similar to that, in that, you can keep it really dead simple. But as you figure out and learn more and more about what's possible, you can say, you know what, I'm going to try fill in the blank. And maybe when you'll try it and you go, damn, I wish I had done that from the very beginning. But,
I know.
But that's okay, because we're all in process.
Agreed on that.
We're all in process. And the great thing about the Helix, the fact that the Helix opened up the idea that, you know what, you can use this in conjunction with other things. One of the things that happens is marketers like the all-in-one solution. Our thing is the all-in-one solution. You don't need anything else. People don't live like that.
I know, that's right.
People don't live like that. If you have like an MXR Distortion Plus and you like that, you know what? There's a model for it, but it doesn't sound exactly the feel for you. That's fine. You can put it in a loop. If you like a particular, like, I make no bones about the fact that I love my VG99. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It got long in the tooth. They didn't really update it, and I'm looking for a way to utilize to use my Helix to control this other piece of gear that I did, right? And the fact that Line 6 isn't pretending like, man, you do everything with us and you'll forget about everything else. The fact that they're saying, man, you could use this to control, there's Native Instruments Guitar Rig.
Mm-hmm.
Native Instruments Guitar Rig is a fantastic program.
Certainly.
It's fantastic. The problem I have with Guitar Rig is that basically Native Instruments has essentially, I'm glad that they still have it in their roster, but Native Instruments has essentially abandoned guitar rig.
Yeah, sadly.
Pretty much, it's a crime and a shame because it's a great program. But because the Helix is a MIDI mastermind, there are ways to use the Helix. There used to be a pretty neat foot pedal that went along with guitar rig.
Okay.
They've done no updates to the hardware. They essentially, man, if you can find one, you're going to find it on eBay.
Was it the Bluetooth one?
Not Bluetooth.
Okay.
It's not Bluetooth. It's USB. It's a USB foot switch. And as I said before, it's great that they even still have guitar rig available. Well, I have guitar rig Guitar Rig 3 on an old laptop. I have a bunch of programs that I program. I would love to use that, right? And there's a way to utilize the Helix to not only control it but also route it. Through itself. Like I want to see if I can grab it and use it, kind of assign it to like effects loops return, outs.
Yeah.
Out to the returns so that I can send it to amps or send it to wherever. And that's the thing that's really cool about the way they've put their MIDI implementation is very, very sophisticated.
Well, several takeaways from what you just said there. There's three really cool things. Number one, you're talking about, Line 6 isn't saying it's the thing that's going to replace everything. I mean, it potentially could replace a lot, of things, and
sure.
maybe everything for certain people. Another thing, just like people that spend a lot of time in the kitchen, whether they're chefs, cooks, or hobbyist cooks, whatever, there's no device in the kitchen that replaces everything. Sure, you have a blender that might do some things, or a food processor, but you still got to keep your meat cold. You still got to heat your food. A microwave can be good, but it doesn't do all those jobs. And another thing you're talking about, we talked about that 30-minute kind of regime that you have. If you're going to focus on something 30 minutes or 10 minutes, apply some time. I'm going to try to be honest and focus on Ableton and maybe spend 30 minutes, a day, and maybe try to learn it. And because you should never be intimidated by something, and I am intimidated by that program, but I want to learn it and see where I can go with that.
See, what's the thing that's cool about Ableton is that Ableton can function as a DAW. But it can function as a full-on DAW. It can function as a way to play audio clips. But the way it uses MIDI and things, you can use it as a super cool guitar effect. Like, you can route it in such a way, especially when you like some of the stuff by Sugar Bytes. Like, some of the effects of Sugar Bytes are outrageous, and you can use the Helix to totally control Ableton. And you could have it as not just to play audio to play to, but you can use it as a super extravagant effects device. Fantastic. That you control with the Helix.
I'm really gonna look forward to that. I'm gonna keep Helix separate just for a little bit, and I'm gonna try to learn the software, and then see where I can learn it. But I will certainly be marrying the two together for sure, because I think the potential is going to be amazing. We just have a couple minutes left on the program, and there's a few questions in the chat that I've been forwarded to me. So one, deals with the tour. I've made some notes about your upcoming tour. So Charles Ireson asked, Vernon, are you coming to Germany? So that is your overseas tour starting in June. You want to share a little bit about that?
I don't have the tour book in front of me. Yes,
but it does start in June, though, right? I think it is.
But it starts in June. We have a few dates in June, but really we're starting in July. Okay.
And am I correct to saying that there's some VIPs available for all those?
Berlin. Yeah, we are doing the VIP Living Colour experience.
Nice, and that's kind of like a meet and greet kind of thing.
A meet and greet kind of thing, and if you want to, get up and you want to look at my many expression pedals in real time,
yeah,
you can do that.
And you know what? I would pay for it for the sole fact I want to see that guitar face. You've got one of the coolest guitar faces. I've seen some photos of you got. It's always like one of these. I can't even do it, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, your guitar face is awesome. And then down towards the very bottom, a couple more questions that come through. Let me see. Bam Ozzy, one of our regulars, awesome, wants to know how good the looper is with Helix. How long can you record for? I don't know the actual length. It's at least a few minutes.
I don't know the actual length, but that's a great question. So I really dig the looper in Helix, and part of the reason why I like it a lot is because of the MIDI time code implementation.
Okay.
Like it works. The time code is really good, and one of the cool things about it is like, so you have the tap tempo button, you have the tap tempo button, tap tempo foot switch, and you know how the tap tempo foot switch is red
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing when you get MIDI time code, it turns blue.
Okay.
And that's how you know that the Helix is running. All the time bass effects are now in sync according to however you set them all up. And then the looper plays in time. Like I have Electro Harmonix 95,000 looper.
Okay.
And I use that looper for kind of drum beats and, you know, and kind of song things or whatever, grooves, whatever. And I take the MIDI out of that and put it into the Helix. And as soon as I, you know, hit start, you know, I see my tap button turn blue, and that's how I know that my looper is going to be in time.
Perfect.
And then the other thing is that it's really cool because it's like the looper that was in the M9 or the DL4, you know,
mm-hmm.
where you can do a single shot, you can put the loop in reverse, you can undo. So say you are layering one thing, and then you do something you say you don't like it, you can undo it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got cool things like that. You know, you can go an octave down and play some stuff, and then play, you know, then turn it back to an octave up, and then you sound like Ingwe. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So
exactly.
yeah.
Something you would appreciate. Yesterday, my son Eric Jr. It was his birthday yesterday, so he's a Line 6.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell him for sure. He'll love that. So he's got his own Helix, and he got a Shuriken Variax yesterday, and so he's mastered the looper. So he was I'll send you the video after. He was learned in his head how to play Enter Sandman backwards. So it's like, you know, when you have some fun, sometimes you record your voice and you play it backwards, and then you try to repeat that backwards to put it forwards. He did that with guitar, so he's playing Enter Sandman wrong, backwards, on loop, and then he reverses it, and it was almost dead perfect. So that was kind of cool watching that.
How old is he?
He's 13 yesterday. He's yeah,
shit.
It's pretty cool. And before the last question, so I mentioned this to you in email, and maybe we can do this with you at a later time. You can send me something. One of the traditions we have here on the show is we like to collect presets from our artist guests. So down the road, if you want to share one with me via email, I'll attach it to this show, and people can download it, because people just love the fact that they get to play like on Vernon Reid's rig or Jeff from Smashing Pumpkins and all that kind of stuff. So maybe something that you've tweaked a little bit you want to share. And
absolutely. Yeah. You know, I mean, I'll send a couple of presets.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, we thank you for that. And the last question is from Brown Human says, I would like to know if you have any tips on automation, Vernon. And we kind of covered a few things with automation, but in general, maybe?
Automation.
And I'm not even sure how he means that, but...
Okay, so in terms, are you talking about, well, this is interesting. Are you talking about automation in terms of...
Well, Brad Miller asked that as well, too. Yeah, sorry. I think Brad...
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Brad, I missed that.
You know what? I would like to know in what context I mean, because I don't want to start saying, well, because what is precisely?
I'm gonna try to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would like to address it, but I'd like to know what I'm addressing before I do.
That's right. Let me see here. Get share patch. That's awesome. So we'll just wait for the answer on that one. So what I'll do is I want to thank everybody while we're waiting for that last question to be kind of explained a little bit further in depth. Okay, maybe he says Brown Human, not in general as far as blending other plugins. Does that make more sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You took blending plugins in Ableton?
Possibly. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So tips for automation. Oh my gosh, because no.
No problem. We can always come back. You know what? We had so much fun with you today. We'll have you back on another show. And by that time, maybe we'll have some email from some of these, people with the great questions. We'll explain it a bit better, give it to you in advance, and then we'll pick up where we left off.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting. To connect Ableton, to connect Helix to Ableton, is that because there's so many MIDI CCs that you can utilize in Ableton, that like the way you can fire off clip. I mean, part of the things that's so interesting is that setting up a project, the specificity with which you set up a project has a real impact. Like what I do with Living Colour is a very specific sort of thing. If I wanted to do something extravagant with Ableton, that means like my block structure, how I do the instant changes, how I use it in stop mode, so it's all about figuring out like what's the end, what's the goal, what's the goal,
Mm-hmm.
what are you trying to do, and then working backwards. Okay, so how exactly do I achieve that end? And part of the thing is, I think that there's like there's one frustrating thing I do have, right? And that is I want to be able to, because I really like the looper a lot.
Yep.
I would love it if there was a way to fade loops.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? If there was a way to automate fading the loop out or fading the loop in, like if there was a way to do that, like to say have a fade, like say I've got a loop going as an intro to a song,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go back to the preset, but I want to be able to hit a button and have a fade, a predetermined fade.
A nice little ramp up or ramp down.
Ramp down,
Yep.
ramp up or right down. So like, I mean, I'm ending a song and I hit a switch, and the loop, maybe a pre-done loop, will fade up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or I've made a loop and I want to get to the beginning of the song, and I want to hit the mode button, right? Maybe tie it to the mode button. So I go, okay, when I hit the mode button, it assigns a fade time to the loop, only to the looper. It's like fade and cut.
Yeah. I'm wondering, in theory, here again, I'm embarrassed I don't know this, but it's one of the nice things. We learn something about Helix every day. I'm wondering if you assigned a block where the loop is and you assigned a volume pedal just to that, if you could, and then again, would you know when it's coming in? But you might be able to fade it in with a physical expression pedal and then fade it back as well, too. But I'm not sure if that would cut everything off. Not sure on that.
Well, there are three expression pedals. Probably there's a way to do it. You know what? That's the thing. Like, we're both puzzling.
I know.
And there's probably, if we had a separate, not your main volume pedal,
Mm-hmm.
not your main volume, because I have my volume externally. I have my expression pedal 1 is a mono DOD.
Okay.
Set to mono mode.
Yep.
Set TS, and that DOD only does volume.
Okay.
I mean, I got it right here.
Yep. Raspberry in the chat says you could stick a looper on a parallel path with a volume pedal after it.
Ah.
Okay, so maybe there's the answer right there.
Right. Yeah, I use one of these guys.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen those. Yep.
And they're great because they're heavy duty. They're really wide,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really short.
Yeah, a smaller footprint. Yeah, but sturdy, they're not
Small
going to tip
footprint.
over.
It's a really well. I like to really appreciate accessories like this because they're super well engineered,
Mm-hmm.
and they're super practical.
They are, for sure.
Yeah,
they certainly are. Another, speaking of other companies, I would just like to give a nod to as well too. Paul Shedden and the team over at Mission Engineering Inc. They make some great expression pedals as well too. Very nice. Yeah.
I use Mission Engineering, the Expressionator.
Yes, exactly. I have one down here. I swear by it. I use it strictly for wah at the moment, but it replaced my EVH wah. I don't even use it anymore. I actually got rid of it. So I'm using the wahs and the Helix. So the last question was from I think it was Jeremy Carter. I think it was. Let me just go back and double check. I'm almost positive it was from Jeremy. Yes, Jeremy Carter asked who your influences are, and I'm sure we share an Eddie Van Halen influence. But who are some of your other artists that influenced you growing up?
Sure. Well, Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, Alan Holdsworth, of course, Eddie Van Halen, Jan Ackerman from the guitars from Focus.
Okay.
Phenomenal guitarist. Bill Connors, the first guitarist from Return to Forever. Oh my goodness, Robert Fripp.
Oh yeah, King Crimson.
Fripp, Adrian Belew.
Yep.
Certainly, B.B. King, Jimmy Nolan, you know, Hubert Sumlin. I love Hubert Sumlin. Yeah, those are a few. I mean, and guitars like, you know, there's some that are really obscure. Like there was a guitars from my neighborhood, like Andre LaSalle, Arthur Rames, you know, just Larry Marsden. Like, if anyone out there knows Larry Marsden, tell him I actually gave him a shout out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that name and I don't know
Eddie
why.
Eddie Hazel.
Okay.
You know, like.
Well, just like your inspirations in life, you have a very eclectic, a nice, really vast set of influences, and I think that's been a lot. Not only has it made you a great person in life, but I think that's really helped you with your sound and your voice over your career.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, the players that are, you know, like, there's so many guitarists and there's so many different ways to approach it. Like Rory Gallagher. Holy cow! Holy cow! Like, Rory Gallagher, like, there's videos of Rory Gallagher. He puts an entire set of energy in 2 tunes. It's like, it's unbelievable. Tommy Bolin, the late great Tommy Bolin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ernie Isley, man. You know, Robin Trower. I mean, there's you know, there's players and just, you know, wonderful, idiosyncratic. You know, I was on stage. You know, they had a Bowie celebration, and I sat in, and I was standing on stage, you know, next to Earl Slick, and I was like, you know, that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Reeves Gabrels, you know, was with The Cure, and I was in The Monster. You know, so there are a lot of people. Some people are personal friends, like Andy Blacksugar, Ronnie Drayton. You know, like, you know. So I was, you know, I actually was in the LA area, and I just came back because I'm producing an artist guitarist named Derek Day, and y'all are gonna hear his name. He's ridiculous. He's like a cross between Jeff Buckley and Tommy Bolin.
Oh wow!
He sings. He sings incredible. He plays great, and he sings. It's ridiculous. And we just did a few tracks, and I'm over the moon with them. So but there are a lot of folks that have just meant a lot to me. You know, Alex Skolnick. You know, he was an iconic guitar player, but is an actual friend. You know, he's a beautiful person. You know what I mean? So. You know,
yep.
There's just a lot of folks, man, that I dig. A lot of folks.
I get it for sure. And you know, the funny thing is, if I had the same conversation, which I do a lot with other guitar players on the show every week, I guarantee it wouldn't be just once; it'd be multiple times. And people would say, "Okay, so and so, Vernon Reid, so and so." So you're well respected. And with that note, as we wrap up, Guitar Hack, one of my buddies here, he says, "So when is part 2 of this show?" So what I'd like to do down in the future, we'll keep in touch on this. But what I'll do is I'll bring you, because I wanted to bring you on the EVH show as well too.
Right. Sure.
Scheduling worked today for this one for Helix Hour, and it was great to have you for the Helix Hour. You're a user of the product for many years and the brand. But I'll send out an invite, and we'll have you for a 90-minute show over on EVH. We'll talk. We'll geek right out, no holds barred.
Absolutely.
And we'll have some fun and
fantastic.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Well,
It's long overdue. We have to do this after 2.8 comes out.
Let's do it. That'll be great because we can talk some Helix over on my other show. We do that. The shows cross over back and forth. So
I was like, you know, Matt, why wasn't I informed? What's that about, man?
I'll send you a link off the air. I'll send you a link to everything that's in it. It's public knowledge, and we'll be having it soon. But listen, don't go away. I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, thank you for the generous super chats and participation and support today. It's absolutely amazing. It does help us greatly continue with the shows because, you know, it does take us a little bit of time away from our regular jobs as we do this work, but it's a labor of love. We love it. And I knew this was going to be a great show with you today, Vernon. We could talk everything other than gear and still have a great show.
Right.
You know,
Eric, you know, you are incredibly patient. I appreciate your kind forbearance. This is a wonderful thing, and you're doing a great thing for the guitar community out there.
Thank you, sir. I'm very humbled, and I'm blessed to have you as a new friend. And thank you for working with us as well too. You're a great gentleman, and we all love you so very, very much.
I really appreciate it. This is a wonderful forum, and I just say to everybody out there, hey, listen, one fret at a time.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a rest of your great evening. And if you're a Walking Dead fan, a nice show on tonight at o'clock. Yes, yeah. We'll talk about that.
That's right.
There's a big one tonight.
The Whisperers.
Yeah, Ryan Hurst. You gotta like man. Opie, right? He's Beta on The Walking Dead. It's pretty good. He's gonna have a showdown with Daryl tonight, so should be pretty good. All right, everybody. We'll see you very, very soon. And until next time, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Thank you for watching The Helix Hour. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. An extra special thank you to the staff at Line 6 for their continued support. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so right now and feel free to share our content with your friends. See you next time on The Helix Hour.